As far as video games go, we haven't had something, especially with the Xbox, that really monitors that per se. But from day one, we've had an agreement that if he's going to play with somebody online, it has to be somebody that we know personally. So that's just kind of our mutual understanding that it has to be somebody we know. It can't be somebody that we don't. It can't be a stranger. We can't communicate with anybody that we don't know. And that's just kind of a rule in our house.
Does anybody? Oh, wow, I turned my mic off. That's crazy. Does anyone want? Caleb, you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, so specifically, part of that question was about like video games and negative effects.
Negative impact, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually did a study in my undergrad. One of the research things that we had to do is just come up with a research thing, and I was like, well, I love video games, so let's do something on video games. In just a brief sample size, just a couple hundred students at my university, but we actually had them come in and play Call of Duty. So like, if you're not familiar with it, it's a first-person shooter, so you are actively killing people. And then the second game was just FIFA, which is a soccer game. And we sat there and we would have them play it, and then we would do some questionnaires afterwards. We found more aggression and anger in the soccer game, following the soccer game. And so it was a great little brief experiment that just goes to show that it's maybe not even necessarily the content, but just how it changes you and how it evokes you. A conversation I often encourage parents with is just pay attention to your kid. Teach them to pay attention to themselves. How is that changing them? How is that affecting them? Because it can be Angry Birds, and it's making me angry. Or it can be Call of Duty, and it's just a fun thing that I can do with my friends. But we need to teach them how to be aware of themselves and how these things are affecting them.
That's good. That's good. Let's. I want to switch gears a little bit from video games for a moment. And side note, so before we get into it, I know I've got a question about internet monitoring apps, and I'll ask Chrissy about that as well, and some of y'all who as well. But in your bulletin there, underneath the communication, the schedule, there's a resource page. And if you scan that QR code, it'll bring you to a resource page in Canva. And even if you don't have a Canva app, that's fine. It'll just pull up on the website. But you have a view-only access to it, and it's got links on there. And it's got links to internet monitoring apps. It's got links to a gaming article, which really helps, is really helpful in understanding parental controls. How do we set parental controls? You had that question about setting parental controls on the Xbox. There are articles that explain how do you set parental controls on every single device that you can think of. And so there's a lot of those different things on there as well. So if you want to, just kind of look at that real quick, and kind of helps you gauge of like what is available to you guys. I just want to make sure you guys have free access to that. But here's a question here. It says, what do you recommend for parents who want to use cell phones to communicate with their kids while they're away from them, but want to limit other communication? I'm going to put this with the Piercys, because you have an older daughter, right, 15, 16. She plays sports, right? And so there's a lot of times she's away from you guys, even though you're a coach and you're a teacher. And so I know there's some of that with their away. And so what did that look like for you guys?
So we started off with a family phone. It was very, very limited. We had to approve all contacts on the phone, and so basically it was the approved contacts were me and Chelsea, our parents, and that's where it started. And when she would go on a trip, we'd give her the phone, and then when she got back, we'd take it back up. And so it was literally just a phone that she could use when she went on a trip and was going to be away from us for a certain amount of time. We controlled, I guess, what apps got downloaded. I mean, she had to go onto a website and approve the app, and then it could be downloaded, and same with the contacts. And so it was a very controlled situation, and that's kind of how we started her into a phone.
That's good. That's good. Anyone else want to speak into that a little bit about what they did when maybe their kid was away at all? I know because she was away a lot whenever you guys, and so I know that was a bit. Anyone else? All right, cool. I want to go into this real quick. I'm going to throw this to Steve to start off with, but I'll be curious if anyone else has any information on this. I did have an article specifically for this question that's in the resource page, so I would check that out as well. But it says, are there any thoughts on how artificial intelligence will change the technology landscape for our children? And I'll even lend it like this. Like, Steve, could you tell us a little bit about artificial intelligence as far as what you see kind of like danger-wise? Have you looked into that at all with anything, or what are your thoughts on that? And I might be throwing you under the bus there. Maybe you're looking over at Caleb.
On AI.
On AI.
I am personally terrified of it. It can do wonderful things, but it's making lazy students even lazier, because write me a program, write me a poem.
Write me a sermon.
What's 35 times this? AI can do wonderful things, but I'm afraid of anything that can shut off my electricity, my car, things like that. It's just like any tool you have. My hand, I can shave with it, brush my teeth, or I can punch somebody. It's the people that control AI, that's where I'm concerned. The world is going towards AI. It's snowballing, it's gonna happen. How do we live with it? Maybe he can tell me.
That's good. Yeah, I know. It is. There are some things I would say, just I've done a little bit of just research into it, and again, it's extensive and it can freak you out. There's no lie about it. But I would say one of the biggest things is that I would just, again, if you've heard anything through a lot of the breakouts, and with these parents that are up here, like, just be aware of what your parents are, or what your kids are doing. Be aware of what apps they have. Are they using Chat AI Box? Are they, need to write a research paper and they're using this? I mean, I have Grammarly on mine, and it has a magic button that says, that I can say something and it'll write something out for me. And I'm like, I've got to pause myself and go, okay. It's like Spider-Man. It's like, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And so it is, right? And I'm sure you guys are probably thinking through that as well. But like, parents here are going like, well, I don't know much about AI, but I can tell you, like, I want to know how my kids are using it and what they're using it for and why. And so I think just being vigilant in that is going to be a big deal. But yeah, Caleb?
Well, and I'll just say real quick, like, the way that AI is already integrated with so many things we do. Anytime I say, hey Siri, and I'm sorry if that just got your phone, but anytime I say that, that's using AI. Like, that is AI in there. Every algorithm that they use to suggest more content, like we talked about on social media, that is all AI. Like, AI is integrated in so many different ways already. I think my bigger concerns, which outside of like geopolitical concerns, my greater concerns are going to be about knowing what's real. If what like the post that I just saw, is that even a real clip of my president? I don't know. And if we're adults and don't know that, how can we expect our kids to? So, and I think just as far as it relates to teaching our students, and that is like teaching them to discern, teaching them to, like, before I just run with what I just saw, let me corroborate that. Like, let me validate, are news reports saying the same thing or whatever? Like, let me find a way to verify that that's true.
That's a good word. That's good. All right, I'm going to kind of ask this kind of starting down the board. We'll start with Chrissy, because I've already kind of mentioned how you guys use a lot of different apps before. One of the questions is just tell us names of apps that you use for monitoring your kids' phones. And so I'm going to kind of start with you, Christy, and go down the line. Just talk about, and I'd say briefly, maybe talk about some of the apps that you've used, what they're called, of course, and then kind of what you liked and what you didn't like.
Okay, I have tried 4 different apps. So having the different age range of kids that I have, I would love to find something that was perfect to monitor a computer, an iPhone, some tablets. One day my daughter's gonna have a phone, my 8-year-old, something that would be an entry level for her, to have something straight across the board that would work monitoring all of these different things. I have had a big challenge in finding something that fits everyone. So I have used Bark, and I used that the longest, and I really, really liked it. It monitored everything. It monitored Google accounts, social media, text messages, everything, and it alerts you when there is something that could be problematic. When it worked, it was great. I absolutely loved it. And for some reason, I had connectivity issues, and I was constantly having to go onto the computer and Google how to get it connected again. And I don't know why. And I don't know if it has something to do with the VPN that these different apps use. I have a feeling that's what it is. I tried Canopy also. I really liked Canopy. It was very promising, but it also uses a private VPN specific to the app, and it wouldn't let my son get on his banking app or Cash App and certain things that he wanted to be able to use. I've tried KidSafe. I tried Aura, which was also very promising. It offered some internet things that the other ones didn't. It would let you know if your passwords have been breached, if they're on the dark web, as well as offer different monitoring things with your children's phones and technology. But I actually had a problem with it on my phone, getting the app to work where you go in to see the monitoring activity. And I don't know if that has to do with the VPN that it uses, but all of them have been very challenging, and I still am searching for the perfect thing to use in my household. I do recommend trying Bark if you can get it to work. Some people are more tech savvy than I am. I'm not good at all with technology, so I'd say that's probably the number one that I would try first. It offers a lot of good things if you can get it to work.
I mean, to be honest, we don't really monitor with another app. So since Kyla just got a phone about this year, like fully, when I say fully, like she only has like 3 contacts that are outside of our family. So, well, I'll say Tyler's on there and Laura, so and maybe some other adults.
Made the cut.
Yeah, that was hard because like as she played sports and things, like teachers would message her, coaches would message her, and it's like I'm having to get this information then relay it to her. It was really annoying. But so we've added some of those, but she just got Instagram this year, and that's the only social media that she's had. So basically, there's a supervision mode on there, and so I get on there and I see anytime she gets a new follower, I get to see who that is. There's time limits, so like she's only allowed on it for an hour a day, and then it shuts off at 11. And so after 11, she can't get on it at all. So that's just something that I kind of monitor. Like I'll go and look through her messages because people still can message her. Like we have an approved contacts to message her on her phone, but they could go through Instagram if she's a follower of them or they're a follower of her. So, but then you can block. So that's what we do. But that's really the only social media she has. So we don't really have a need for the other.
Justin?
So for our house, the first layer is our router. We have a software called OpenDNS. You can Google that if you OpenDNS, step-by-step guide how to install those on your router, whatever router you have. That filters adult content in our household. That only works on the Wi-Fi though. That's not if it's on their phone or whatever. For phones, we're all Apple. We have iOS everywhere, and we use Screen Time. It's all everyone's accounts on my wife and my devices. We can see everyone's account. We regulate the time that it turns on, turns off. It's a content management. You can specify websites, adult content, whatever you want to block, you can block. Length of time, so whatever YouTube app, we can limit that to however many hours a day we want to regulate that. For computers, we use QStudio. We've used that for probably 10 years now. It's come a long ways. The early days, they just weren't thinking about this area of protecting us, so it was hard. But that's worked best for us for computers. That's time management. Turns off at this time, turns on at this time, this amount of time per day. We can block whatever sites we want, add whatever sites. Sometimes in the due diligence, things get blocked that shouldn't be blocked. I think Hack was a big one a few years back for our kids. Like, we can't even check our grades because you got this stupid software blocking everything. So we can go on there and add that site. Bam, now go back to your room and shit it. Just kidding, I love my kids. But gaming devices, Xbox, whatever, that's all in the living room. We don't have TVs in our bedrooms, so we don't have to worry about that. Luckily we made that decision early on, so we didn't have to fight the battle to pull them out. But so all the gaming systems are in the living room, so we're monitoring the first-person shooters and whatever else is going on. We can see it right in the living room. We walk by, and I think my kid's watching an NFL football game, and he's playing NFL. It's a video game. It looks real. It's crazy to me. But anyway, so that's kind of what we do.
Well, when my kids were at the target age, but I was really worried about them, there wasn't a lot available out there for us analog people. So we use the Mom and Dad app. I can check your phone at any time and look at your browsing history. I can check your contacts. Your mom can check your phone, laptop at any time. And it wasn't always painless, but that's what we used. Now, we've come a long way since then now. There's a lot more things. Filters that can stop it from coming in the first place. The 4 that I recommended, I think I've heard 3 of them on stage so far. None of them is perfect, but I wish they'd been around when I could have used them. That'd have been just a little bit more. You know, I had McAfee and Symantec, other things, but that's not going to protect your kids.
It's good. It's good. And again, most of those apps that they mentioned are on the resource page. And also on the resource page, there's a place that says Parental Controls 1 and Parental Controls 2. If you go on, I think Parental Controls 1 takes you to a website that gives you a breakdown, step-by-step process of how to put on a filtering, or how to set time limits, or how to set parental controls on every device that you can possibly think of. So you want to know how to set up your router so it blocks up? Check that out, right? OpenDNS is one you can use as well, but there's a lot of options out there. If you don't know how to really utilize the parental controls on iPhone, it'll show you how to do that. Like we wanted to get these resources in y'all's hands because, again, there's a ton of them out there, and you can look it out on your own. I'll throw this out there too, for some of you guys that may not realize. So social media is on the iOS device. So if you have an Apple phone, there isn't a way, as far as like through Apple, to actually check what someone sends or receives via the app. Now you can grab their phone, you can look at it, absolutely, but I will say that the Bark phone, which is something that, I was talking to Chrissy about it, she didn't realize that was one that was out there because it just came out pretty recently. And I'll kind of let Caleb talk about this because he's got some clients that have actually used the Bark phone. But the Bark phone actually is basically like the Bark app that's been integrated into the phone. So it's not iOS operating system, it's not an Android, it's a Samsung phone with the iOS, with basically the operating system of the Bark app. So you can actually check every single thing that is sent, received through any and every app. It's like iOS, as far as iOS parenting controls, is basically integrated into it, and you control it from your phone. So it's take basically what iOS does and throw in, you can actually monitor everything that's sent or received through every social media app that's available to them. They have that. But go ahead and speak a little bit on the Bark phone, because I know you've...
Yeah, well, actually, I've never even heard of the Bark phone, so that's awesome.
Oh, I thought you said that...
Yeah, well, so I've had tons of clients, their parents will use because like when I say clients, like I have a ton of just all age kids that I've worked with. Their parents will use the Bark app.
Oh, okay.
And so in the way that, like, I don't have any personal experience with it, but the way that I would get involved is that, so especially when I was working at Cedarville, when I was doing that, I was just in the school day in and day out. Well, I would get a text from a parent and say, hey, this notification just came up about them sending a depressive message. And then that clued them in to go read the message. And they read it and they're like, oh, this is concerning. And they were able to reach out to me and say, hey, can you grab them and talk with them? And so it really was a cool, like it really is like monitoring not just what's being sent, but the content itself to say and send you a notification as a parent that, hey, this was very concerning. Like they mentioned suicide, or they mentioned depression, they mentioned or whatever, or just the content itself was depressive. It was a lot sadder or something like that. And so it absolutely, whenever my son's old enough, because right now if he's sending something, it's about Toy Story or something, but whenever he's old enough, that's probably going to be the first place I start is the Bark app.
That's good. So again, and the Bark phone is one of those cool things that you can add more or less, take off less restrictions or different things, kind of like what you're talking about when now they have access to this and now they have access to this. So it's kind of like a good first starter phone and then kind of grow up with it. But anyways, again, all that information on your resource page. Check it out. Because again, we can all talk about all the ones and what they do, but I would say just spend the time and y'all take the time to read it for yourself. Here's a question here, and if you guys don't know of a direction to go on this, I've got an answer for it, but it says, how to understand, like, how do you know when content is fake? Like, what resources out there that can help, as either a parent or even a parent, help teach their kids to know when something is fake, when something is not real? Because there's a lot of fake news out there. There's a lot of generated media out there that isn't real. Does anyone have any idea, Caleb?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts that I could throw to that. Honestly, the first place I start is comments. Like going into the comments on a post to see Like, does anybody else think this is fake? It seems fake to me. And you know what's funny is there's been so many videos that get posted. I think of Steph Curry. There's like so many videos of him doing full court shots that like he posted, and because he is capable of that, we think, oh, that happened. And then it comes out later on down the line, like, no, they filmed it and it was a fake thing. But you know, it's also kind of one of those things like, well, it doesn't seem like anybody else thinks this is fake. Let me check my source. So who posted this? Is this a satirical account? Is this an account that often gives me the truth, that gives me actual stuff? You know, those are some of the ways that you can kind of guide your kids, and that is to like look at your source, look what other people are saying about it. Is this, what if it's a news item or something else, like is this being shared by other places? Like are other places verifying that? And if we're being duped, we're probably all being duped together in it, and you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some fake news come out, go figure. When I go to the site and I see the fantastic news, someone's dead or whatever, they'll have the channel 11, channel 5, whatever it is. If you click on like the weather or other things, nothing happens. It's obvious fake. But, you know, in the 1800s, they had yellow journalism. Editors just printed whatever they wanted to. And by golly, if we aren't back there again now, it's hard to determine fake from real. And with deep fakes, like he spoke about, it's really scary.
I think there's even a deeper issue because the generation of children think everything on the internet's true, right? How many times have you heard that? Like my generation's like, yeah, it's fake until proven otherwise. But my kids, a lot of the times the conversation is, hey, Dad, I heard this person did this political thing or whatever. Where'd you hear that? Well, it was on TikTok. Okay, so let's back up. So, you know, who was that on TikTok? What kind of credibility? So I think it's, as a parent, you have to teach your children how to do research beyond just what they saw pop up on their feed, because you have to explain to them that's driven, you know, they want you to click on that, that's driven by that. So helping your kids understand, do more research, go to a different source, look at multiple things. But yeah, like the AI, that's going to be something that's going to be huge. So if you guys are looking for investments, I think that'll be the next level of the computer. The internet is a service that validates content. So there's going to be people out there that are like, yes, that video is correct. It was certified by XYZ company. So it's going to be a huge problem. So anyway.
That's good. And I would say this too, for a lot of questions, again, in gearing up for this, I can tell you the hardest thing about this entire thing, honestly, planning wise, was what or what not to put on a resource page. Because these questions are fantastic, but I can tell you that that answer is out there. There are articles upon articles upon articles that I guarantee you could look for and find. How can I tell if this is a deep fake? How can I tell if this is fake news? And there are people, like these guys are giving you great stuff too, but there's stuff out there as well. So I always want us to kind of bring us back to if you need more information, it's out there. It's been done for you. All right, so this is, I think this question, and again, this is on the resource page, but like, how do you manually set up time limits on each app? I would say iOS, I'm just gonna kind of answer real quick, because Justin, you kind of mentioned this. iOS, if you've got an Apple phone, so when we say iOS, that's Apple phone, an iPhone, it's through screen time, parental controls, correct?
Correct, and it's really easy to use. And I'm passionate enough about this that I'll tell you, if you reach out to Tyler, he can get a hold of me, and I will literally come and sit down with you and share it with you. Like, it's so important. I'm gonna get on a soapbox. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. No.
And if you were in our talk, you heard this, but really, let's step back and look at this whole thing, because really, the core of this is just one little piece of your child, or your spouse, or whoever. The most important thing in that is that relationship that you have. So when you're talking about these boundaries and all these different things you want to implement, be sure you are speaking to their heart and you have their heart in this situation. That's a critical thing through this whole process, because it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be fighting. You're going to hear, none of my friends have this on there. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you having this? You know, it's critical to have their heart so they trust you and know that you have their best interest. That's why you're doing this.
And you guys notice, like, every single person that's like, so it's got teenagers right now, like they all have time limits. Y'all say that, right? And so again, if you have a specific question on like, hey, I have this kind of phone or I have this kind of device, I would like pull them aside later and ask them like, hey, how do you do that? But again, you can also find out that information if you want as well. All right, so this is going to be kind of a flip the script. We've been talking about our kids, but we all know the whole motive. More is caught than taught, right? And so let's flip the script here a little bit on us as parents, right? We are all perfect with our phones. We are on it the perfect amount of time. We're never overusing our time limit on our phone. We're never looking at Temu and trying to figure out what we want to buy. My wife called me the other day. She was like, I've been on there for like 10 minutes because I was like, oh, I found something I can get for free. Oh, if I buy 4 more things that are like $2. And Laura's like, you with us? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, I know. It gets you. And I'm like, delete you, Temu, right? Like, I'm out of here. And so we get that. So let's put you a little bit on the spot. And so, but I would say, like, what do you guys do to model? Because again, you guys are adults, you have parents, and so you don't have to have restrictions on your phones per se. But how do you guys model that for your kids? And I would say I'll start with Caleb, because Caleb has actually talked to me a little bit about one of the social media sites he loves, and how when he recognizes it, kind of what he does, and then we'll kind of come down the line. Caleb?
Yeah. So so first of all, I use an app called Opal, like the gemstone. It's where basically I can set it up to block any app that I want to for whatever time I want to. To me, I like it a little bit more than the screen time function on iOS, and it's the same functionality, but I just kind of like that app a bit better. And I use that app. I set it up to block basically social media, all of it. I set it up to block basically any time that I'm with my son, like the hours that I know I'm going to be with him, and basically like so the little bit in the morning, and then from like evening on, just the rest of the time, like I just set it up to block it. And what happens whenever you go into it, if I was to try and go into it, it comes up and just say, hey, this is blocked. You can't get in it. Now, it's super easy for me to get around it. There's so many ways that I can like hit a snooze button and all this kind of stuff. But my heart behind doing that is to kind of create a bit of separation there from the habit. Because I don't know how many of you do this, but how many of you just mindlessly find yourself scrolling on Facebook? Like, it truly is a habit that you didn't even think about. And I could go into the science about all that. It's really fun and cool. But the reality is that your brain is going to just mindlessly put you into there. And I want to create blocks. I want to create blocks so that I can be more intentional to say, if I really want to look at something on Facebook, that means I'm spending time on that and not with my son right now. I mean, for those that were in here, I showed my sons too. I really have that mindset that, like, I'm not going to get to my deathbed and wish I spent more time on Facebook. I'm going to wish I spent more time with him right now, the one that's in front of me, no matter how tired I am or frustrated I am or whatever I'm feeling, because he's 2. But so that's often my mindset. Right now, I actually decided to block it all just so I don't get any updates about the Chiefs game. So that's where I'm at right now, trying to keep that secret for myself. But yeah, that app is one of my favorites, and just that mentality is trying to be more intentional with my time. I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the ways that I always like to talk about with clients is that all change, happens through awareness and intentionality. Awareness and intentionality. And so I'm trying to find ways to be more aware of my habits and be more intentional about what I do instead.
Well, with my family, it was 10 years ago when my kids were at the target age. I was very big on things I didn't have growing up. I was very big on, we will sit down and we will have supper every single day as a family. There will be no electronics. If we go out to a restaurant, they're grown-ups now, no cell phones. Engage me, let's talk. It's family time. I didn't have a lot of experience with what these guys know about now. Like with Apple phones, my kids have Apple. I'm a Samsung guy. I don't understand anything about Apple. It's another world. I don't understand that at all. But your kids know what's genuine and what's counterfeit. If you take away their phone, yell and scream at them, then you spend the next 3 hours in your lazy boy on the phone. Think about it. I'm talking to me. Ooh, what have I done? Walk the walk. That's the only thing I could add to what these guys are saying.
Good. Justin?
I think for us, it's being transparent. So I mean, we do awful at it, let's be honest. I mean, you get home, you're tired, you just want to scroll on whatever. I don't do social media, but my wife does, and she goes through ebbs and flows where she's like, all right, I'm off of Facebook, you know, January 1st, she's like, I'm off Facebook and Instagram, and she's stuck to it so far, so good for her. But just being transparent, so there's times when we'll call our kids in like, hey, do you realize you're spending this much time on here? And they're like, well, how much use time are you spending? And you can look on your phone in the battery section, and it'll tell you what, so we'll just pop it open. I don't know, what have I been doing? Oh gosh, I've been playing that game too much or whatever. Just being transparent with them. We have a time at dinner, the 6 to 8 hour where we don't know, there's no phones, so we're just hanging out together or whatever, or cooking dinner, trying to do whatever. And again, we fail at that often, but really it's just being transparent with them. Even our kids, our college kids are coming back now, and they're like, come on, Mom, Dad, hang up, hang out, you know, and just saying these things to us, like, just being real with them and just knowing that, you know, we're all fallible, we'll you know, make mistakes.
Yeah, I'm not a super technology kind of guy, and so I had Facebook and found myself on that too much. I got challenged by a group of guys that I work with, and we'd all kind of talked, and basically I came to the decision that you're one of two things. You're either intentional as a parent or you're passive as a parent. And I felt like when I was on Facebook, I was being passive as a parent. And as parents, we have a countdown clock to when they leave our home. And for me to think I'm spending part of that countdown being passive on a social media app that's just unacceptable to me. And so I got rid of that, and it hasn't affected me one bit at all. It's not a big deal, and so I would definitely choose that. One thing I wanted to say is, you know, we haven't given our daughter a phone for a while until she was a little bit later, a little bit older, and so one thing we always have talked about is where her identity lies. And so when good things happen in her life, we talk about this doesn't make you a better person, this doesn't make you, you know, any more valuable or anything like that. Your identity lies in Christ, and that's point blank. When bad things happen, it's the same thing. This doesn't make you a worse person, this doesn't diminish your value. Your value has been established by your Creator and by nothing else. And so we have those conversations a lot. You know, we had them when she was younger. I had one with her Friday night when she was frustrated with herself with the way she played at the basketball game. And we just said, you know, I know things are frustrating in life, but your identity does not change based on that, because it's established by something greater. And so when it comes to social media and the things that she sees on there, and that to me is, again, something we've talked about, is nothing you see on there will establish your value. It doesn't diminish your value because you see something spectacular, what you think is spectacular on there, and you feel like you've fallen short of that. And so that's the big thing with us. But as far as modeling it, I think it's pretty simple. You're either being intentional as a parent or you're being passive. And so I know when all of us step back, I mean, you're all here for a reason. When we all step back, we all want to be intentional. We all want to be intentional with our kids and push them in the right direction. So you just have to decide, what steps do I need to take to be that intentional parent that I want to be.
Skipping over you. Okay, well, I'd say the more kids I've had, the more I've become aware that they are constantly watching you. And something that's just important for me is I don't want my child to think that I'm wasting my time and that they're not important, that Facebook scrolling is more important than my child. I never want them to think that. So I'm not on it a lot. When I am on my phone, it's usually a work email, or I'm grocery shopping or doing something that I feel like is an important task for my job or my family. And I try to make sure that I tell them that. If they are needing my attention, I tell them I'm working on something important, I'm sending an email, and I will get to you in just 1 minute. And I finish my task and I get to them. So they know that I'm not ignoring them, putting other things before them. We also do no phones at supper time so that family time is safeguarded against technology, and try to put importance on those things above technology.
That's good. So just, again, notice intentionality all across the board. It's just being intentional with your time, and I kind of love what you said in the beginning, like being aware. We've got to be aware. We've got to know. And I'll tell you, you want to know the easiest way. You want to know if to be aware or not. Just ask your kid, "Hey, do you think I'm on my phone too much?" See what they say. They'll tell you right away how they feel about that. And then hey, there you go. You have awareness. And so I know that we could all be self-aware, but we got kids, we've got our spouses in our lives too that help us to be aware of things. And so I think, again, I appreciate you guys being transparent and sharing those things. Again, we're infallible, or not fallible. Is that right? Is that wrong? No, we're not infallible. That's God. My bad. We're all fallible. Steve looks away. He spins away like, I don't know this guy. No, right? There you go. Yeah, same here. All right, hey, so I'm realizing that either someone doesn't want to know that they're sending me a question because I'm running out of questions. Just know that if I don't have your number on my iPad, which I probably don't, it's going to come up anonymous. So if you want to send an anonymous, question, feel free to do so. But I'll ask this last one. This is from a teenager, and so I realize I feel like I need a teenager to ask this because it's more of like, how do you feel or what do you do with? But I'm gonna kind of gear this towards Caleb to start. But the question is, what's the best way to deal with social media when it's taken away? And so maybe speak from it as you have a client comes in. And they are just so frustrated because they're just talking about the restrictions on their phones and social media taken away and all these things. And how would you process with that teenager of, going about that, being unbiased in that way?
So I always place an emphasis on that our feelings are meant to be felt. That our feelings are meant to be felt. To whatever you're feeling, just let yourself feel it. Like it will pass. They are meant to be felt, and we cause a lot of harm by trying to not feel the way that we feel. And so as a therapist, I oftentimes will just ask questions to maybe explore that more, to explore tell me more about how you're feeling, or tell me exactly what you're feeling physically. Do you feel like you want to punch a hole through a wall right now? Or what are you feeling? Oftentimes as a therapist, I'm asking, how have you handled those kind of feelings before in the past? Maybe this is a new situation for you, but you've had that before. You've had that feeling before. And how have you handled that before in the past? That's often my way of exploring that whenever I have, first of all, if I just have no clue who you are, and this is our first session, or if I truly am just trying to figure out, trying to get you to see what would be best for you to handle that. And I want to say two things, because I want to go to, as a parent having that conversation. But before that too, there is nobody in the history of the world that has ever raised kids in January of 2024. We're all making this up as we go. We think, based off of research and past history, we think there's some good ways to do this. We're the first people in the history of the world to have to suffer from having social media taken away from us. That's never before happened in the history of the world. We're really trying to figure out the best ways to handle that kind of thing. And I say that to create just kindness and grace on yourself as both the kid and the parent, to say, we're doing the best we can. We're doing the best we can. And so as a parent, I would just highly encourage trying to have that conversation. So many times the things that come up about that is about trust. Do you not trust me? Do you not trust me with this? Do you not trust me as a person? Is there something wrong with me that you don't trust me with this? And I oftentimes highly encourage to shift the conversation away from that, because it's not about trust. It goes back to the analogy we used about learning how to drive, that these are the training wheels. It's not about trust. I'm just trying to teach. I am specifically putting limitations on you because when you turn 18, you have all this to you. You are going to be unrestricted in that eventually. I'm trying to restrict you now just to teach you lessons, and it has nothing to do with trust. And so I try to emphasize that a lot with clients, especially with the families, is as much as you can as a parent, try to speak to that, because so many kids, even if they don't say it that way, what they're really saying is, do you not trust me? Do you not think that I can handle this? And just to simply say, it's not about that. Like, it's truly not. I'm just trying to help put these safeguards on for now, because eventually you're going to be bowling without the bumper lanes, man. Like, you are going to be doing this. We're just trying to put on a little bit of restriction now.
That's good.
For a young person, my response would be, what is it that you get out of social media? I'll tell you what it is, it's validation. When you make a post, 5,000 people respond, ooh, I'm kind of special. Dopamine's released in your brain, a pharmacological response. I feel good. I want to have this experience again. I'm going to post more. You're placing your value, your self-worth based on computer algorithms, what your friends are looking at, thinking. None of that's the actual real world. If I were to describe social media, it's all of us on our first day of the job at an interview. We're putting our best face on. Does somebody ever post, hey, I got fired, life is terrible? Probably not. So parents recognize when a kid has that taken away, they're going to have a withdrawal emotionally, possibly physically. I'm not getting that high again. I'm not getting validation from my friends. So it's not just they're stuck in it. There's more to it than that. And he can really expand on that, but we don't have time for all that. But I just want parents to think about that.
That's good. I got one more. I'll kind of end with this. We're at 7:56. I want to give you guys about 30 seconds apiece, all right? And it's kind of a fun one. Like, when your kids come out of the house, what's one or two things you want them to walk away with because of what you're doing right now in their, or what you're planning on doing in their lives? What do you want them to walk away with because of what you're doing right now when it comes to technology?
I think the biggest thing is just to know that any restrictions that I've tried to place or any monitoring that I've tried to do, it's not because I don't trust them. It's because I love them. I just want them to know that above all, they are truly loved and special.
When Tyler asked us to do this, he was like, Kyla's been pretty great about it, and she has. I mean, she's got her other issues, but well, I just asked her, I said, you have been really good about us not giving you a phone, because all of her friends have one, and the Instagram and all the other social media that she could have. I said, what is it? And she goes, well, I mean, y'all just told me basically you want to guard my heart. And that's kind of what, just led her to think, okay, this is what they think's best. And that's a conversation we had. I mean, as she's been growing up and with the boys too, like, we want to guard your heart. It's not that we don't trust you. It's not that we don't think you can handle it, but we want to make sure you'll never unsee those things. You'll never unhear those things, all those things. You'll never unfeel those. And so we just want to make sure we protected her in that. And so I hope as, she grows up and then it does have more access to it, that she sees that and is able to discern those things for herself.
And that's, that's the key right there, is we want them, when they leave our home, to be able to discern these things for themselves. I really want my kids, when they leave our house, to understand perspective on a phone, on a social media account, on the kind of technology they consume, and be able to place it all in order of importance, and understand that, their relationship with the Lord is the most important. Relationship with their parents and their friends is a lot more important than being, so consumed with this stuff on technology. And so I think having a godly perspective on the importance of these things is important to us.
Yeah, that's very similar. We want our kids to love the Lord. We want them to be pursuing the Lord, and to understand with technology that it should be regulated, and that's for adults, for kids, for everybody. But that's that's true with everything in their life, everything in moderation or whatever, and just to not let this interfere with their relationship with the Lord. So through social media or whatever that is. I think our generation of kids, like I said earlier, the internet is true, it's gospel, and for them to understand it's really not. That app or that platform makes money by you pursuing it and clicking in it and going to the different things, for them to understand that's not really a resource for knowledge and understanding. That is, it's consumerism, and I don't think they understand that. It's just so ingrained in their life that to tear that away and let them see that and understand, yeah, they're doing that on purpose to you, so you'll click more, you'll pursue it more because they make more money by you doing that. But again, we want them to love the Lord, to seek the Lord, and to understand technology's place in their life.
I would like my kids to model what I got right as a dad and give me grace where I made mistakes. Because we all look back, I should have done this, I should have done that. You folks all have the advantage over me. You still have you just still have the opportunity to do the right things while they're young. Stay intentional. Young people, it's not all doom and gloom. I believe in you. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think our next generation would do something wonderful. Just to be forewarned is forearmed, right? And if my kids love God, love Jesus, respect people, I'm good with that.
That's good. Caleb?
I'm glad I got to go last. So many wonderful things, and I completely agree with all of them, and I want that for my son as well. But whenever he walks out the door, on top of that, I just hope that he would not be afraid of anything anybody might say over him, to him, or do to him, that he would not be concerned about messing up because he knows he will, and that he knows that regardless, that his mom and dad love him and are going to support him every step of the way.
That's a good word. Good word. Y'all give our panel a hand. They did awesome. Great job. Thank you, guys. You guys can, just as you step off, y'all can just put your microphones there on the things. I don't know where you're going to put them right now. I'm not going to hold them. There you go. Hey, it's 8:01. I want to be faithful to time, but I do want to just spend a moment here. Hope as you guys walk away from here, listen, I love what everyone said. Caleb made a really good point, though. Like, no one has parented in January 2024 to say the 21st. No one's parented January 22nd, 2024, right? Right? I mean, we are always going to be stepping as parents into new territory. Teenagers, you've not been a teenager on January 22nd, 2024. So hey, listen, we don't know everything. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can be given knowledge and understanding, and we can utilize that. But I tell you what, one of the coolest things that I kind of saw throughout this whole panel was, again, you can just see the ebb and flow of grace, right? Parents, we make mistakes. Students, you make mistakes. And I hope that we would show grace to one another. And I hope that you would understand and know that God gives you grace. And again, lean on that. Lean on that no matter what. The goodness of the gospel is that God loved us in spite of us. And he gave us Jesus. He gave us everything with nothing, needing nothing in return, so that we could have everything, and it cost us really nothing. So let's just lean on that as we go into this. I pray that every single person in here, as you guys walk away, take this information, pray over it, talk with your spouse about it, and talk with your family about it. And I pray just moving forward, you do what is best for your family, for their good, and pointing them to the Lord, using technology as a way to glorify God. And I believe we can do that. A lot of scary things out there, absolutely. A lot of things we need to be aware of, but I would rather know what they are, prepare for them, and do what we can to teach and train the next generation to be as well. Because again, the day's going to come when we're going to be so out of date with technology that we pray that our kids have been risen up to understand, hey, I need to do this for my kids as well. So let me pray for you guys and we'll be dismissed. Heavenly Father, I just thank you again for your grace and for Jesus. God, this conference doesn't come about without the gospel, because it is what fuels us to look at our world today and the needs of parents, of students, of people, and what do we need, God? We need understanding, we need knowledge and about technology and all the facets of technology, God. And we only scratch the surface, Lord, but we know beyond anything else, God, that you are in control, you know everything, and you are good, and we can always lean on you through that, God. So I just pray, Lord, that all that we learned today, that you would help us to use that for our good and for the glory of the gospel. Thank you for every speaker, God. I pray for safety as they travel. I pray for safety for all of us as we travel, Lord. And God, I just thank you again. And God, use this conference for your name and your name's renowned. And Lord, be glorified in all of it. We thank you, Jesus. It's in your name we pray. Amen.